Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Puck, along with Tariq Spence. Good to see you, man. Welcome back.
Good to see you, too. I don't know who this new co-host is, though, so I'm worried about team chemistry.
Well, I'm wondering about the jersey. I was giving some thought to it. It says I really don't recognize that one, Pat.
Well, here's why. I had a jersey to wear this morning. I had an E.J. Manuel Bills away jersey I was going to wear this morning. And then at work, my car got broken into. They smashed the back window, and they stole my sunglasses, $1.50 in change, and an E.J. Manuel jersey, which has to be the worst get away with a crime of all. Who steals an E.J. Manuel's parents wouldn't steal an E.J. Manuel jersey, which is strange because the last time I had my car broken into, I had a J.P. Lossman jersey on the front seat.
Yeah.
So I go around to survey the damage. I open up the door. There was another J.P. Lossman jersey on top of that one. Wow. So it's insane. Yeah, totally
they gave
crazy.
You an extra one.
Yeah, that was a joke.
E.J. Manuel. The gift keeps on giving.
Should be easy to find whoever's selling an E.J. Manuel jersey.
Bro, if I see anybody walking around downtown Rochester in an away E.J. Manuel jersey wearing a pair of Ray-Bans, I'm pulling over. You hear me? I'm coming for you. I see you in your E.J. Manuel jersey.
This is a bit that could last the whole site.
It could.
But let's talk some baseball. As we record the show this week, the Red Sox have been overtaken by the New York Yankees. Pretty unbelievable in the American League East. The playoff picture's changing. The fortunes for the Mets have gone downhill. They're third place and fading fast. What do you make of all of it?
I think somebody on the Mets told the E.J. Manuel jersey because that's how far down they've gone, the rabbit hole. I'm really concerned about them. Can I just vent about the Mets organization right now?
Sure.
First of all, I mean, you've got Lindor, sign him to a huge contract. You don't sign Conforto. You play this little game with either one of them. Okay, Conforto's now competing for a contract. He has a terrible season. Then the guy you paid over $200 million, he goes out and has a $250 season, and now he's injured. He needs a friend in Baez. You got the wrong Cub. Instead of getting Chris Bryant, you went and got Baez. He's terrible. He hasn't played well as either. And everybody's questioning the manager. Remember, we were a month ago questioning the Yankee manager about his job. Now we're back over to the Mets and questioning their manager and their job. Everything has gone terrible with the baseball. Your Cy Young pitcher cannot pitch. You don't know where Noah Syndergaard is. He's supposed to be your number 2. The guy holding it together is Marcus Stroman, literally. It's just a cluster, you know what, during this whole season for the New York Mets. Meanwhile, the Yankees, who's got all these injuries, guys getting COVID, questions about their starting pitcher in Cole, comes back from Spider Tack, pitches a great game against the Angels. Then they've got guys basically competing with Rizzo just getting to town and Luke Voigt getting there, basically saying, I deserve to play. They're more competitive now, even though they're injured, and they're racing in the first place.
That's some big-time venting.
But other than that, what's the problem? Right?
It's just a total, I've never seen so much enthusiasm going into the season All-Star break, and the Mets just totally fall apart, and the Yankees get better even though they're injured more.
I would love to see you in a Red Sox jersey, by the way. Yeah, and speaking of the Red Sox, we dealt with this with Greg Cagle last week about, is there a psychological disadvantage of not making moves at the deadline? And it would seem in Boston's cases that's what's happening.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still a decent amount of the season left, right? Like, nothing's done here. And again, you're right. I think you do get a boost from bringing people in if you're the New York Yankees. And, you have that inner competitive. Are they going to be able to sustain that? Because, look, let's be real. We all know it's not the manager doing anything different that's making this happen, right? Because you know how Aaron Boone is not actually a Major League Baseball manager. He just sits back and watches things happen. That's what it's going to come down to in this final race in the AL East, whether it's, with the Rays and the Red Sox and the Yankees, is who's going to be able to outmaneuver who. The Yankees got back into it because of the moves they made, but can those moves that they made sustain them for the rest of the season? I say no.
And then the last thing we'll talk about, the team that nobody talks about, the best team in baseball, the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I once again, the Chris Bryant thing. I mean, it's interesting too. In that game between the Mets and the Giants, who's the guy that hits the home run? The guy the Mets should have gotten. Who is Chris Bryant? And they find a way. I don't know what the Giants really do. They lose a couple of star players. They lose a couple of star ace pitchers. They find a way to retool, and they come right back, and they're right back in it again. I don't get Tampa Bay, same sort of thing. They kind of, you move a couple guys around, move this thing. They find a way to find the best players possible at the lowest amount of money, and it results in wins.
Yeah, and Tampa, no fans, no payroll, first place, defending American League champions. That's unbelievable. This is the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay and Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Time to talk a little Buffalo Bills. I tell you, the news from Dion Dawkins this week and hearing him say, or reading his statement and all he went through with COVID, it was impactful.
Yeah, I mean, we had no idea. We knew he was on the COVID reserve list when training camp started. We didn't know until he spoke that he had been in the hospital for 4 days, and he talked about how there were points where he was worried that he wasn't going to survive what he went through. And look, he was a wide open book, very vulnerable about the whole thing. He's the second Bill to have serious issues from catching COVID. Tommy Sweeney, the tight end, might have, I'm not going to say it the right way, but the issue with the heart after everything. He missed the whole season last year because of it, now starting to move back forward. I mean, look, it's horrifying. And by the way, third Buffalo professional athlete, Rasmus Ristolainen, now who is in Philadelphia, had it as well last season. He said that he thought there were nights he wasn't going to wake up because stuff was so bad. Like, it affects different people different ways, but when you see these professional athletes going through it like that,
Well, I thought it was interesting that he mentioned that too. He said he is a professional athlete and he can't imagine what it would be like for somebody who is not as healthy as he is, somebody who doesn't work out as much as he was. Remember, he was going through the whole off-season workouts and then regular season workout, preseason workouts, going through with what COVID did to him. So that's the type of thing that, and then we're talking about people with pre-existing conditions and all these other lines that go in. I don't mean to go into COVID type, but the way he spoke about it, what he said and the emphasis he took on people dealing with stuff when they're not supreme athletes like he is, just puts another tide on it. Like, I'm not here to convince anybody to get vaccinated or whatever it may be with masks, but to take this very seriously, I think is very important that more and more athletes share what he had to share.
Now, he was in the, he had the shots. He had the second shot, but it hadn't fully kicked in yet. He was within that, I guess, that 2-week window of effectiveness. It's not inconceivable. You look at the story that he told, that if he had not been vaccinated at all, he might have died.
I mean, look, it's all possible. Again, I don't even try and pretend to understand all the science behind this stuff, but I do find it very interesting now that you have a guy sharing that in Dion Dawkins, right? And again, unbelievable story. And then the side-by-side with everything that's gone on with Cole Beasley in the offseason, right? Who said he's not going to get the vaccine for anything and isn't, okay, fine. How does that play out inside the room, right? Because you can't tell me these guys don't talk to each other. You can't tell me this isn't a discussion that's happening within the locker room. Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall to know what is going on inside that locker room right now. With
Dawkins walked the line, I thought, very effectively with what he said.
Absolutely.
And not putting anybody down.
Sure. And there's no reason he should be, right? He's detailing his own personal experience. But, I mean, come on, you guys know, right? Personal experience for you is also a personal experience for somebody else, especially when you have the voices that have been showing up on that team this year.
I'd be happy to know that I don't know any information about it, which means they have a solid enough locker room that stuff doesn't leak out. So if there is no big outbreak, if there is no issue, if this does go away, we start the season with the Buffalo Bills playing week 1, no problems, it is what it is, we're fine on all the same page. That leads me to believe they've got a very strong locker room, and I feel good about that.
That's pretty cool. And in a football sense, you have to address the fact that right now the Bills don't have their starting left tackle.
Yeah, but they're not playing a lot of players. I mean, are you worried that Josh Allen is not playing at all? Are you good the fact
Look,
he's on the sideline?
you were off the week we talked about it. Don't play him a second in the preseason. And I'll be honest, man, I'm glad Dion Dawkins is there. Like you said, you don't have your starting left tackle. You don't play your starting quarterback. You just gave $150 million guaranteed dollars to keep him out of the preseason.
And quickly, the situations are different, but I felt like I had to ask you, because you lost a lot of weight over the last few years, and I talked, Dawkins is 15 pounds. Do you feel weaker when you're lighter? And granted, this is a totally different thing because you intended to lose the weight.
Sure, absolutely. Just go in boxing, for example, right? Like I fought in high school at around 260, 270 pounds, and I fought this last fight at 189. And yeah, you lose. I mean, I know it's a difference of 20-something years, but yeah, I don't throw as hard as I used to, and I don't move people the way that I used to. And even playing hockey, I don't, when somebody gets a hold of me, it don't feel the way it used to.
Anything to add?
No, other than the fact that, the Bills are looking good defensively. Look at all the different changes that they made. So I'm looking forward to the start of the season. I do want to see preseason games, but I'd like to see one of the, you don't think maybe last preseason game?
No, that's the one you don't do it, because if something were to happen horrifically, you're a week away from opening day. If you're going to play him, you do it on Saturday against the Chicago Bears. But no, don't, because you don't have your starting left tackle. Don't you even think about doing this. Don't do it.
And now you're only playing 3. This is Rochester Press Box. Like it or not, it's next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
All of these things show Josh Allen has a strive for greatness inside of him.
Falcon Around with Carl Falk. New episodes every Tuesday on Rock Sports Now.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Kevin, like it or not, Tim Tebow gets promoted.
Well, he's hitting 222. Why wouldn't you get promoted to the next higher level? I mean, it makes sense. And Sandy Alderson, the Mets GM, was explaining, saying the numbers aren't necessarily great, and he's using all these metrics. Yeah, the only metric that matters there is exit velocity, and that's at the ticket office and the merchandise stand when they lock the door and run to the bank with all the money that they're making on Tim Tebow.
Okay.
That's the exit velocity.
But we hear every year that there's struggles for the Batavia Muck Dogs to sell tickets and maintain their ability to stay in Batavia. Why not give Port St. Lucie the ability to make a little bit money while you have the opportunity?
Well, and the difference is they took him from a team they didn't own.
Yeah.
And brought him to a team they do own.
Well, that's good business, though, Kevin.
Not if you're developing ball players.
It's a bad look for the organization, too.
But then again, you are entertaining. So there is something to be said for let's give people what they might want.
See, look at the Grinch. Is that fun? Hate it. No good. Hate fun.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us.
Thanks for joining us, and welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box. This segment of the Press Box, like it or not, brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law Firm. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Don't go unprepared. Contact Ganguly Law today. Pat, like it or not, Tim Tebow is out of football.
So
early.
I laughed out loud when they did this because it was a sideshow, right? I thought it was. But now that it's happened, I'm sad that Tim Tebow isn't trying to make a professional sports team anymore. Like, I think the world...
There's other sports out there.
Well, okay, you're right. But I think the world's a better place when Tim Tebow is trying to jam himself as a square peg in a round hole in a place that he doesn't deserve. Because, like, we were talking about this on the break room this week. Tim Tebow is the very rare, and he might be the only, sports name brand home... Like, everyone knows who he is, right? Who has been an underdog his entire career. He couldn't be a starting NFL quarterback, yet he wins a playoff game and is gone 12 months later, right? Doesn't get any playing time with the Jets. Doesn't even make it on a training camp with the Patriots, right? Works his way up to AAA baseball, which everyone laughs at him. You try and work your way up to AAA baseball, never played high school ball, and then he's given the opportunity to play tight end. Like, the guy's story is remarkable, and everybody loves him. You never heard a bad story about Tim Tebow. I'm heartbroken, and I don't know why.
Well, listen, he's got a place. It's called college football. You put on a mic, put on a suit, go out there, you'll get a job. You got a job tomorrow if you're Tim Tebow.
But I know he's got a job now. I mean, he works for ESPN. He's going to do that. But I want to see him compete at something. I want him to keep trying because it gives me belief that I can do things that I absolutely should not be doing.
But that's not... Why is he so popular? I don't totally get his appeal.
He's the Bo Jackson of this generation if Bo Jackson was always this far from being Bo Jackson. That's why he's so popular.
Like this far.
Well, no.
Drake, like it or not, the Field of Dreams game, the baseball game played out in Iowa.
I absolutely loved it. Loved the scenery of it. Loved the ratings for it. So did Major League Baseball, which is why they're going to bring it back next year. I think it's with the Cubs and the Reds, so that should be a lot of fun. I am a little bit concerned, though. We're going to the well a little bit too much. I've heard this whole thing about let's do Sandlot, and let's do this, and let's do Bad News Bears, and let's do the... No. Let's work on what works right now. Let's do it again next year. Maybe make it a 3-game series. And then we'll go with other promotions. Try to do something, I don't know, with Little League and Williamsport. Or do something where you're collaborating the sport and bringing new, younger viewers into the game is what baseball should be working on. Nothing wrong with Field of Dreams in a generation. I saw the movie and I love the movie. There's nothing against that. But you've got to grow the sport at a youth level.
My favorite part of the whole Field of Dreams game was John Smoltz playing video of a Little League kid putting him out of the park. Did you see that video when he was pitching in batting practice? And the kid not having any idea who John Smoltz was as he was taking him out of the park. Because they tell the kid to go run the bases, and the kid's like, okay, I just hit off this old guy. I'll go run the bases.
Like ball guy.
Right? Like, I mean, think about it. Like, like he's one of the greatest pitchers of the last 30 years, and this kid's just like, okay, thanks, old guy, for pitching me this baseball.
Yeah, one of those guys, after they showed the video, says, I bet he knows who he is now. And tell all his friends, I took a Hall of Famer deep.
He doesn't care. The best part was Tim Anderson, because I got to see the Yankees lose.
I just like you a little bit more than I did before the
Same page.
This is the Rochester Press Box, like it or not, brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law and Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. It's time for Unfinished Business. Pat goes first.
You guys know I love my sports jerseys, which is why I had to change into this 4X Boston Red Sox jersey from Joe backstage. Thanks for being 7 feet tall and helping me out. But the reason I bring this up is there was news about NHL jerseys this week. The NHL's Board of Governors approved, not for this coming season, but for next season, advertisements on NHL jerseys. And you're going to say, well, it's going that way. Here's what's weird about this story. It was less than 12 months ago that Gary Bettman, commissioner of the NHL, and the people around him said they would never put ads on NHL jerseys because there's something about the NHL sweater that is sacred. And all NHL fans nodded their head because they go, yeah, we understand what you're saying. How do you, less than a year later, go against the thing that everyone stood up and applauded you for? I love hockey more than anything. Well, maybe not the NFL, but you get it. I love it. How the NHL cannot get out of their way in all of the mistakes they make. I understand you need the revenue. I understand there are unforeseen things that have happened in the last couple of months. But to put an ad on the sweater, the most sacred of all sports jerseys, right? There's that crest on the front of the jersey that's existed since the late 1800s. There is something about that representing a flag more than any other sports jersey. And with one signing of a pen, a couple of months after you said you'd never do it, you're doing it, and there's no going back. So enjoy your NHL highlights. That's going to be the last time you see pure hockey sweaters, unadulterated, by Gary Bettman.
It's been a year, or a little bit more than a year, but Jamal Adams was absolutely right about everything he said about the Jets. He wanted to get away from there. He said their head coach, Adam Gase, was not a leader. He was not. He said that there was a problem going on with the chemistry with the team of the Jets, and he wanted out. He mentioned the fact that he wanted to go back to Dallas, but they weren't able to arrange that. He goes to Seattle and becomes a Seahawk. Well, if you look back at a year ago, he got basically railroaded by everybody saying he's a spoiled player, he doesn't know what he's talking about. What did the Jets do? Get rid of Adam Gase after the season. It's a terrible season. It restarts all over again. What does Jamal Adams do? Go to a team, make the playoffs, and then wait to negotiate with that brand new team. Gets a brand new contract, 4 years, $77 some odd million. Jamal Adams was absolutely right. So the next time an athlete is not happy with the current situation and says that there's a leadership problem, you might want to listen to him.
Baseball celebrated the anniversary of the film Field of Dreams last week and played a real game in Dyersville, Iowa. The circle is complete. I generally enjoyed the mystical sports-themed fantasy. For those half dozen or so of you who haven't seen it yet, the ghost of shoeless Joe Jackson returns to a converted Iowa cornfield to play baseball again with some of his fellow departed friends. That's the short of it. But something always bothered me about this plot. Since this is obviously a fantasy, we can have it any which way we want. The players who emerged from the cornfield returned from an era before the game of baseball was integrated. In a fantasy world, from the great beyond, it was a chance in a small way to right that wrong. Shoeless Joe Jackson and his 1919 teammates, Mel Ott, Gil Hodges, all present, all white. All of us want to believe in these sort of things, an active afterlife. But in a true Field of Dreams, isn't there room for Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, and Jackie Robinson? In a film crafted in 1989, don't they have the right to share the same dream on that same field? Of course they do. That was a missed opportunity. That is Unfinished Business, and that is our program. And since we were on a sort of a uniform theme I wanted to ask you, did Tim Tebow's jersey in Jacksonville go up, down, or what's it worth right now?
Well, I don't know. They sold a bunch of replica Tim Tebow jerseys. In fact, he was one of the highest selling jerseys. So the Jags that were laughed at this whole time made a pile of money to have a guy on their roster for a week of the preseason, right?
All right, thank you very much, Terry.
I think it'll be right behind Lawrence. Let's just stay for the top selling
Yeah,
jersey.
right.
Okay, it's fair.
Regardless of whether or not he's on the team.
That is our show. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.